Afternoon. This afternoon I'll be presenting the comparison summary between Northern Territory and Queensland Ambulance Service. So for Queensland, the difference between Northern Territory, the main discovery I've found is that St John Ambulance Service Northern Territory Council is the operations structure for this area. And within Queensland it is under the Queensland health legislations. So that's my major finding for the operation structure between the difference of Queensland and Northern Territory. There are small differences between the local ambulance committees and so on, but that is my major find, that the St John Ambulance Service monitors the Northern Territory board, and the Queensland Health is by itself on its own board. So for the clinical structure between Queensland and Northern Territory, which I have on the comparison summary, is Queensland has 3 student paramedic levels. You then go to advanced care paramedic, you have intensive care paramedic, and you also have the officer in charge, the operations supervisor, and then the actual director of operations, which obviously you're experienced in. Northern Territory, same deal, you have 3 student paramedic levels if you're in the student paramedic programs. From then you have the graduate paramedic intern on Northern Territory. That's where you're classified from then on, and you then progress to paramedic. And then you also have your intensive care paramedic and your area manager, and then your operations manager, which is then also your most advanced within that location. Next you have the additional graduate training or internships upon employment. Within Queensland you have the graduate paramedic induction program. In Northern Territory you have the internship. So 2 different programs for graduates wanting to gain employment within both areas. Registration requirements between Queensland and Northern Territory, neither have registration requirements for graduates, so there is nothing there. Mandatory requirements for the application. So Queensland, Northern Territory, I'll start with Queensland. Queensland driver's license, it needs to be unrestricted, it needs to be manual. You need to provide references, you need to be an Australian citizen or have a resident status, you need to provide employment history and a resume, police criminal history check, evidence of degree completion, traffic history report, employment screening consent, and immunisation records. So that's what's mandatory for the application if you are going for that. Northern Territory driver's license, manual, unrestricted, same as Queensland. You need your references, also same as Queensland, Australian citizenship or resident status, etc. Same as Queensland. Police check, you need to have a working with children check, immunisation records, and a transcript of academic achievement for Northern Territory. The assessments need to be undertaken. So for Queensland, you have a medical assessment, you then have a reference check, you have a pre-employment screening, you also have an assessment centre, which you need to complete stage 1, 2 and 3. The duration is a week, and you also have the 3 stages which I've said, which is the cognitive ability assessment, You have the psychometric assessment and the individual and group assessment. For Northern Territory, you have the driving assessment, you have the reference check, you have the interview, you also have the psychometric assessment, the medical and functional capacity evaluation, FCE, and handwritten assessments, group challenges, similar to Queensland, but they both have their own different application processes, slightly different. So in conclusion of the two comparisons, which I find each have their own assets. So for Queensland, I find it is under the Queensland Health Department administration. For Northern Territory, they fall under the St. John's Northern Territory Council. So they both have their own variations from these different committees. So that's the major thing I find. Other than that, they're relatively the same, but the information's there, and what graduate paramedics must follow is obviously between the Queensland and Northern Territory committees, if that's what you're going to follow. So that's it. Thank you.